quickly, and she she doesn't want anything at all. But Josh thinks that they're in a better place now than the day before.
Plus, he said that he saved up 3,000 British pounds. How much is that in USD?
Catie just invited the guy she keeps making out with to her own birthday party. Not the guy she used to make out with. The guy she is, currently, actively, repeatedly making out with. And by the end of the night, that guy turns to her on camera and basically asks her, in front of her own fiancé, why does this keep happening? We are getting into all of it. The party, the receipts, the 4 times history nobody's talking about, and the part that happened after the cameras stopped rolling, because that part might be sadder than anything that aired. Okay, so if you're new here, hi, welcome. I talk about 90-Day Fiancé like it's my job, because it kind of is. Today, we're doing Catie and Josh, Episode 7, The Ball and Chain, and I need you to buckle up, because this storyline has been quietly the messiest thing on this season, and nobody's covering it the way it deserves. Everyone's been so locked into Mito and Debbie that they completely slept on the fact that Catie Norboe brought her situationship to her own birthday party, like it was a normal thing to do. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why Josh posted a video this week, basically begging his own comment section to leave him alone. And trust me, that video is the real ending of this story, not the one TLC gave you. Let's go back to the beginning real quick, because context matters here. Catie and Josh met in 2022, and the way they met is honestly the first red flag if you're paying attention. Catie was living this nomadic pet-sitting lifestyle, bouncing around Europe, and she's in the UK pet-sitting when she swipes on a guy named Dave. Not Josh. Dave. She goes out, Dave gets kicked out of the bar for whatever reason, and Josh, who is Dave's friend, ends up walking her home instead. They make out on a bench. She leaves him outside, peeing in a bush, and her exact words for how she describes meeting her fiancé are, quote, "That's how I met my fiancé." Y'all, that's the origin story. That's the founding myth of this relationship, and somehow it gets messier from there. Fast forward, Josh proposes to her on a beach in Turkey, February 2024, golden hour, does the whole fake photo that's actually a video trick to catch her reaction. Very cute, very romantic, very normal proposal energy. And Catie's response, in her own words, is that she wasn't really thinking about marriage, but she said yes anyway. Hold on to that, because that's going to become a theme. Catie does things because they're happening to her, not because she chose them. We're going to come back to that idea a lot today, so keep it in your pocket. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because Catie has been very open, almost proudly open, about something specific. She told the cameras, direct quote, "I have intrusive thoughts as part of my OCD. When I get drunk, I really want to make out with everyone I know." Now, I want to pause here, because I think this is the part of the story people are going to misread in the comments, so let's be careful. OCD is a real, documented mental health condition, and intrusive thoughts are a real symptom of it. And if that's genuinely what's happening for her, that deserves empathy, not a pile-on. I'm not here to make fun of anyone's actual diagnosis, but here's my issue, and stick with me. Because there's a difference between having an intrusive thought and acting on it 4 separate times with the same specific person while engaged to someone else. An intrusive thought is involuntary. Inviting that person to your birthday party is a choice. Those are not the same thing, and conflating them is exactly the move that's about to blow this whole storyline up. Because let's talk about Ryan. Ryan is not a stranger. Ryan is not a random guy at a bar. Ryan is a longtime friend that Catie has actual history with. And according to what's come out, the two of them have made out, while she was drunk, 4 separate times. 4. Not once, not, it happened one time and we moved past it. 4 documented occasions. And Josh, her actual fiancé, was physically present for 2 of those 4. He watched it happen. Twice. There's also an Oktoberfest incident that gets referenced, where apparently Ryan got, and I'm using the word the reporting used, inappropriate with Catie in front of Josh, and Josh's reaction at the time wasn't calm. His exact text to her afterward was, quote, "You're a horrible person. See you never." Read that again. See you never. That's not a guy who's fine. That's not a guy who shrugged it off. That is a man who, at that moment, was done. And yet here we are, several months and one engagement later, and Ryan is still in the group chat. Ryan is still invited to things. Ryan is still close enough to Catie that he gets a spot on the guest list for her 27th birthday. So, let's get into the party itself, because this is the part everybody needs to actually picture happening in real time. Catie decides, with this entire track record sitting right behind her, that the best way to celebrate turning 27 is at a bar. Not a quiet dinner. Not a low-key hangout where temptation isn't part of the evening's decor. A bar. Drinks are the literal mechanism by which every single one of these 4 incidents has happened, and that's the venue she picks for her own birthday. And then, on top of choosing the one environment that has reliably caused this pattern every single time before, she invites Ryan anyway. I want you to sit with that for a second, because I think this is where the "it's just my OCD" defense really starts to fall apart for me. If you genuinely struggle with an urge you don't want to act on, the move is to avoid putting yourself in the exact situation that's triggered it 4 times already. You don't book the bar. You definitely don't send the invite to the one person who's been there for every single one of those 4 times. That's not someone fighting an intrusive thought. That's someone setting the table for the same dinner she's already eaten 4 times, and then acting surprised when the food shows up again. And the night plays out about how you'd expect if you've been paying attention to this storyline at all. Ryan's there. Josh is there. The drinks are flowing because it's a bar. That's what bars are for. And at some point, Ryan, of all people, the guy who is supposedly just an innocent friend in this story, is the one who ends up calling Catie out. Not Josh. Ryan. In front of Josh. The reporting is clear that Ryan basically tells her, point blank, that she doesn't seem to know what she actually wants out of her life. And then we get the line. This is the line, the one that closes out the whole episode, the one I opened this video with. Ryan looks at Catie, on camera, with Josh standing right there, and says, "Catie and I have had quite a few conversations about what she really wants with her life." And then he asks her directly, "There's a reason that this keeps happening, right, Catie? I need you to understand how insane that moment is if you actually think about who's saying it. This isn't Josh finally snapping. It isn't Catie having some big self-aware breakdown where she takes accountability. It's the other guy in the love triangle who ends up being the one to say the quiet part out loud, while her actual fiancé just stands there absorbing it." Ryan basically narrates the whole situation for everybody watching, including Josh, including us, including, presumably, Catie herself, who I genuinely don't know how you respond to and just keep partying. And that's where the episode leaves us. Cliffhanger. No resolution. TLC just lets that line hang in the air and cuts to credits, because of course they do, because they need you back next Sunday. But here's the thing, the story didn't actually end there. It kept going, off camera, in real time, on social media, and that part is honestly more dramatic than anything that aired. Because the second this episode hit people's screens, the comment section exploded, and it exploded in one very specific direction. Run. That's it. That's the whole comment. Over and over and over. Run, Josh. Run. People were not holding back, and they were not being subtle about who they thought the victim of this story was. And Josh, to his credit, or maybe to his detriment, actually saw all of it, and instead of staying quiet, he made his own video responding directly to it. And this is the part that genuinely got to me. He says, and I'm paraphrasing the gist of it, that he understands why people are looking at his relationship with Catie and reacting the way they are. He says he appreciates that some people are reaching out because they actually care. He's not dismissive of the concern, which honestly says a lot about him as a person. But then he says, If he gets one more comment telling him to run, he's going to lose his mind. Sit with that phrase for a second. Lose my mind. That's not a guy who's annoyed about internet noise. That's a guy who is being told by hundreds of strangers the exact same thing he probably already knows deep down, over and over in his replies, every single day. And he has nowhere to put that feeling except a video where he's trying to sound okay about it. That, to me, is the actual emotional climax of this entire storyline. Way more than the bar scene. Way more than Ryan's cliffhanger line. A man publicly, politely, asking the internet to stop reminding him of something he can't stop thinking about either. And look, here's my actual verdict on all of this, because I know some of you are already typing in the comments that I'm being too hard on Catie. I am not saying her OCD isn't real. I believe her when she says she experiences intrusive thoughts, and if that's genuinely part of her lived experience, that's not something to mock. What I am saying is that there's a version of this story where she protects her relationship by avoiding the bar, by not inviting Ryan, by actually doing the work. Instead of leaning on a diagnosis as the explanation every single time, the same specific thing happens with the same specific person. 4 times with one guy isn't an intrusive thought pattern. That's a relationship she hasn't ended. And until she's honest about that distinction, with herself, not with us, Josh is going to keep absorbing the fallout of a choice that gets repackaged as something he should just understand and accept. The real twist of this whole thing is that despite everything, recent sightings have them still together, spotted out at a food cart in Portland, like none of this is actively unfolding in front of an entire fan base, which either means they've worked through it in a way we're not seeing, or it means absolutely nothing has changed, and we're all just waiting for incident number 5. So here's my hot take. I don't think this is an OCD story at all. I think OCD is the explanation Catie reaches for after the fact, and Ryan is the person she keeps choosing in the moment, and those are 2 very different things being treated like they're the same thing. Josh isn't dramatic for being hurt by this. He's been remarkably patient, with something most people would have walked away from after incident number 1. So I want to know what you guys think. Do you believe this is genuinely about her OCD, or do you think that's become a convenient cover story for something she just hasn't been honest about? Drop it below. I read every single one of these, and I am genuinely curious which way this comment section lands, because I have a feeling it's not going to be split 50-50. If you want to see the storyline that's actually breaking the internet faster than this one, stick around, because Sarper just got caught on 2 separate dating apps while he is still legally married, and what Shekinah said in response might be the biggest exit announcement this franchise has seen in years. That one's coming up next, and trust me, you do not want to miss it. Like this video if you want more of these breakdowns, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you in the next one.